welcome back to the show, Jess. Damn it.
I got away with that. I got away with it.
I forgot that you hit start broadcast, and then there's the one extra screen where it's like, okay, we're about to start. I'm like, yeah, that's why I said start, you fucking jerk. I didn't catch it. I didn't
Do you
catch
mean now? Yeah, now, motherfucker.
Look, are we going to do 1, 2, 3 stop podcast or 1, 2, 3 stop podcast right at the same time? Anyway, what's up, Jess? Welcome back to Ready Player 2.
Yes.
And we have fully established that this is how we start the show now. It just fucking starts at some point.
This is already going to be a lot of laughs. We're already fucking cutting up before shit even starts.
Yeah,
it's either going to be funny or just a complete shit show.
I was going to say, I can't tell if this one's going to be awesome or just be off the rails at fucking T-minus 53 seconds in. But it's all good either way. Yeah, it's all good for both of us, man. I think this one's going to go especially interesting because I'm a little bit like, I came into this already a little bit tired because I had a long day of work today. So I have that like that combination of being semi like delirious, and then on top of that you add any type of alcohol. This one could be a fucking wreck. Like if the androids are thinking they're going to win their civil war against humanity tonight, with me in control, they're in fucking trouble.
You may want to pull the mic away from your mouth just a little bit. It sounds like it's like inside your teeth. There you go, much better.
I did put it inside my teeth. Man, there we go. This is going to be an awesome one. I'm very excited. So, welcome back.
Did you get a coffee?
Ready?
You said you're tired. Did you get a coffee?
Yeah.
All right, good coffee.
Coffee talk.
I actually am. You hear that little? I'm gonna be drinking a Red Bull simultaneously with my drink.
Oh wow, you're going for that stress on your heart move that you did again a couple.
I'm like, woo! Oh yeah, it's so good. It speeds your heart up and it slows it down simultaneously.
Right.
It adds years to your life.
I get it. So what you're trying to do is basically create your own, like live from the MCU superpower, where your heart's fucking rapidly going back and forth. You're hoping maybe that combination will turn into some type of a mutation that will be your new power.
You know, as you say that,
the two.
I'm just getting. This is a funny story that happened. We were in a work meeting today, right? And so we just got a couple of people, new people on our team. So our boss, our big boss, decided to have everybody, all 20 people on the call, go around and introduce themselves. Right, so this was fun for like 45 minutes of straight like introductions, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is me, and I used to work here, and this is what I've done with my life, and blah blah blah." So, like, it was like mind-numbing. I'm rolling my eyes, like, especially because I already know, like, you know, most like 17 of the 20 people, right? So I'm just like, oh, and it finally gets to me, and I was just like, yeah, I'm such a semi-real. I'm Serious Jest, and when I was 16, I got bitten by a radioactive spider. Since then, I've had incredible agility, a keen sense of danger, and I can shoot webs from my fingertips. And then, like, since we're like on business Skype or whatever, you could see like the look on the big boss's face wasn't like there was no laughing. She was genuinely confused for a minute. Right. I was just like,
Wait, so you unemployed?
You can tell.
Is that what you're trying to say? Are you unemployed?
What's that?
Are you unemployed? Is that what this story is about?
This is when you make one of those moves like that, you know, you expect to have one reaction and then it just completely fails flat. Yeah, I was like, and as you could tell, I have a keen sense of comedy as well. She was like, yeah, I'm not sure if the new people or some people, you know, understand whether that's a joke or I was like, it's a joke. It's like a spider. And then like somebody in the chat wrote, it's okay. He's wearing Spider-Man pajamas.
Gotcha.
And then like, so more people laughed at that comment than they did at what I said. So I was like, okay, that wasn't.
So you were like, oh, all these people suck. Because if they thought that was funny and mine wasn't, then this team is horrible. Man, I was definitely fully waiting for that story to end with, so I'm going to be sleeping on the man cave couch while I look for a new job and wife and family.
Nah, if that ever happened, Craig, I'd be all right. I'd just sell rocks.
Nice. All right, there you go. Way to not break any stereotypes. I love it. And
Craig, I'm Peruvian. I always have abilities to make money.
That's your superpower?
Yeah.
That's my real superpower. Oh, wait. What was it again? What should we do with the game?
What?
What should we do with the game? Anyway, all right.
I don't know what you're talking about, Craig.
This is already insane. It's 5 minutes in, and we have literally said nothing except for the fact that you may or may not be Spider-Man.
Nothing of substance. Spider-Man. I'm either Spider-Man or unemployed.
Possibly both. Those two very often go hand in hand, so it's totally fine.
Man, the joke fell so flat too. It's really bad.
Man. And that must have been, the worst is like because you had to name like 3 separate like parts to it. So you must have known by the time you said the first one that no one was laughing.
Yeah.
But you were like, I'm already in too deep. Like I'm committed to this joke. I gotta see what happens. So you had
the thing is that it was a conference call.
Right.
It was a conference call, so you really couldn't like, and not everybody had their camera switched on. So I'm sure some people were probably like chuckling to themselves. But the problem was that the person whose face was highlighted on the Skype call was like the big boss that's like 2 levels above me, who was just like, I don't like it. It was like a does not compute look.
Right. I especially like that she was like, I don't know if everyone on the team knows that Jest is joking. It's like, who's the idiot that's like, whoa, wait, tell me more. That seems amazing.
Are you really fighting crime on the weekends? That's dangerous.
Sense of danger. Wow, that seems. Are the police aware of this? You're like, who's that idiot that's like, I don't. How long has this been going on, Jest? Does your family know?
Oh no, it got better. So later in the call, I tried to, double down and I can bring this back. I can bring this back. So somebody made a mention of some new form that should always be included with an email, right? TPS so report. I do a quick little Google search, come up with the meme with the TPS report, right. And some reason like the firewalls prevented like when I pasted the picture in there. It didn't show the picture. It showed this long paragraph of code in the chat section of the Skype instead. So then, again, the big boss stops the meeting and goes, what is that?
Wow. You really were
like, yeah, it's just a bunch of characters. She's like, I'm scared to click on it. Like, am I going to get a virus?
Like, Jesus.
No, it's like I clicked off mute. It was like, yeah, it's just a meme, about TPS cover reports because of the,
Oh my God! See, you would have had that opportunity then to just be like, "Oh, sorry, I don't know what that is." At least try to cover it with like ignorance. Instead, you're like, "No, it would have been funny." But instead, it just looks like I was mad that everyone didn't laugh at my joke, so I tried to infect everyone's computer with a Trojan virus.
I was like, I feel like I'm having an off night today. The crowd's not really warm.
Yeah.
And
boy,
it was just...
you were having a bad night on stage as a stand-up comedian. You were like, I'm gonna turn this shit around. I don't care what these motherfuckers think. I'll make you laugh. Wow.
Did you see when that happened to Tiffany Haddish, by the way?
Yeah.
Recently?
Pretty amazing because it happened like literally the day that I had just watched the movie Night Class or whatever that. What is that?
Oh, Night School or whatever.
So I watched that movie and then
was it good?
It was funny. I thought it was funny. I mean, it's exactly what you're getting. It's really there's like it's the interplay between her and Kevin Hart and they're both being like themselves. So it's that is funny. Right. That's always going to be funny. But it's weird because you watch that and she's pretty good in that movie. I think she's pretty funny, and I think the whole thing that a lot. I
like her overall.
Yeah, I overall I do think she's funny. I think the one thing that came out of that story, which I did probably agree with a little bit, is that my perception of her, but I'd never seen her stand up, but my perception of just seeing her do Saturday Night Live stuff and stuff like that.
You're too close to the mic a little bit, by the way. Again.
Yeah, again? Jesus, I don't know. All right.
It's just on the P's or whatever is where it was really like my perception of a. I was like, okay.
That's just how I talk all the time, whether I have a mic or not. So but my perception of her already had been, and this was only based on just the way what I had seen of her, but it's not like I'd ever gotten to see her in stand-up, do stand-up. But I had always kind of thought...
Now you sound far, sorry.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm not fucking with you, honestly. All right. Go ahead.
It came across to me that she would be somebody that was much better as a movie comedian, like playing a role,
okay, gotcha.
And everything, as opposed to somebody that was necessarily like a great stand-up comedian.
Right.
And then it was funny that I saw that movie and I was like, oh, this movie kind of reinforced that I think this is probably better when she has like a script and she's able to deliver lines like within a role, right, as opposed to just get up and tell you jokes, right? And then it was funny because like 4 hours later, literally that story just like popped up on my phone because it was the night before that she had just performed. I think it was New Year's Eve, and she had performed and basically just shat the bed, and people were like walking out, and it was like it turned into an absolute.
Oh, see, I didn't even hear that full story. I just saw the reason I know about it is like I saw on Twitter where like somebody wrote, like some idiot posted like, yo, she had a really bad night. Yeah, the video of himself going, having a bad night. And then like a bunch of people retweeted it and was like, yo, I've never seen somebody self-murder themselves so bad. Like he just made himself. It was so corny because like it's not like he even added anything. I thought it was gonna be some dude like everybody was like, yo, how lame do you have to be to post this? And I thought it was just gonna be some dude that actually started playing her out, like heckling her, and did it successfully. In which case I was willing to consider like that was a fair game, right? Because like in rappers do that shit to just like, yo, somebody, Machine Gun Kelly goes at Eminem, and if he has bars and it works, then hey, chalk it up to the game. That's exactly. But in that case, he wasn't even telling jokes or anything. He was just like shaking his head and going, having a rough night. I'm like, how was that even?
He was like selfie shotting with her in the background on the stage.
So stupid.
So the one thing I did hear, who knows if it's true, but his claim, he said that
she invited him up on stage.
No, he actually said, because he was just standing. She was right behind him, like he was right in the front, but he wasn't up on stage. He was like on the he was like right in front of the stage, standing basically right there in front of it. And the story was, which was actually corroborated by a ton of other people, is that a shitload of people walked out because she was doing so terrible. And so as people started walking out, she eventually was like, yo, it's gonna be one of those kind of nights, so y'all better come move up here up front, to the people that were like sitting in the back because people up front had left. So she called people up, and he was one of the people that she said, why don't you come sit up here? And so he came. He walked up front.
Oh wow! And he used that to like.
No. But then what he said, which I don't know if this is necessarily true, or I'm still not even 100% sure if it is true, if it gives him the right to do what he did. But like what he claims is that he went up and was just like, yo, what's up, like Tiff, and he took his phone out and was going to just take like a selfie picture, like, hey, just like literally just post like, I'm at such and such place, and he or she is
which
like
is still pretty
right
rude. Which is still pretty rude to do that in the middle of an act.
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean, I think at that point she had literally already sat down and was like, she pulled out like an entire thing of vodka and was just like, it's gonna be that kind of night, so y'all better just come and drink with me, right? So like she really was all like, she was leaning into it, like, I'm gonna suck, so I'm gonna get drunk. And so I think he tried to take a picture, and then she was like, wait, turn around for a minute or something, like, your shirt is fucking shitty. Like she started like making fun of his shirt. And so then he was like, wait, you told me to come up here to like come sit down with you. All I tried to do was snap a shot. Like, I was just trying to take, like, he didn't get up in her face and take the shot. Like he tried to take from his seat, just like snap a shot. Like I'm right up on stage by her. Then when he turned around, she made fun of his shirt. So then he felt like he could be like, somebody's having a rough night, and wanted to like make fun of her. So, I mean, it was like, again, who knows what's the truth, right? But it was like, either way, he looked like a cornball. He looked like a cornball no matter what.
He's a huge cornball, right?
Because he wasn't even making fun of her. He was just saying like, bah! And you're like,
yeah.
Right. I mean, if you're just going to do that, then you just look like you're trying to fucking pump yourself up at her expense, and you still did it. So. But yeah, but then apparently a lot of people did say after that, which was kind of why I brought it up, was that a lot of people were saying that her set did reinforce that, like, that's actually not really her strong suit, is like doing stand-up is not where she's really, she doesn't really deliver that well there. I mean, again, that's always opinion.
I mean, every comedian has had bad nights before. Like they all say it. They've all had really bad nights before.
Of course. I think they were trying to say that there was like a number of times, I guess there's like 3 times or something that they quoted in this article I was reading, that where she has had like nights where people have walked out. And so they're like, there is a chance, and I guess the argument was that, did she maybe get like bumped up to the big time before she was ready to, fill these huge rooms doing stand-up because of her success doing like scripted comedy, which is obviously,
that's true.
Still great, but that's way fucking,
it's a way different beast.
To get up on stage and do your own shit in front of a live crowd versus like doing a scripted comedy and whatever. So people were saying, so now maybe it's starting to come out. Anyway, funny that you mentioned that, but sorry, long story short, this is not the Tiffany Haddish podcast, so maybe we could take a break talking about her stand-up shit.
Again, shit show, good show, who knows? We're just going for it.
Exactly.
15 minutes in, ain't talk shit about. We have not said the word Detroit yet.
We actually haven't even said we're going to play a game. We haven't even literally told you. As far as you know, we're just going to stare at this lady staring back at us and talk about Tiffany Haddish.
So let me follow let me follow this trend we're doing of not continuing to not talk about the game that we're gonna play, which is Detroit Become Human, and talk about something more. The invisible friend of the show that has been here obviously since the beginning of the show, and that's alcohol.
Yes.
Today, Craig, because we've been doing so many, like I basically only drink now when we're doing show-related shit, you know, or if I'm like out or whatever, you know. But like as far as staying in the house, unless I have actual like, you know, friends come over or whatever, if it's just me, my wife, my wife convinced me to drink sometimes, but mostly the beer gets drank. The beer, yeah, I keep backpedaling. Right? I only drink for this, and with this, and with this.
I only drink for the show, when my friends go over, when I go out, when my wife convinces me to, when I have some laying around, when I can convince the guy below me to go out for a minute so I can break in through his window and steal some of his. Basically, I drink all the time. I really.
It's like when there's rubbing alcohol sitting in the bathroom.
Right.
Cough syrup, I drink it all.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you just call in and say the baby's sick again so we can get some of that good shit?
Let's just restrain my comment to beer. Mostly beer. I've been drinking like when, you know, saving it for shows. We've been doing so much stuff lately between, you know, our regular podcast, Live from the Man Cave, which I'll post it for you guys if you guys want to look it up on any major podcast app, or our Ready Player 2 series, which we've been doing, you know, which we're doing now, which you're tuning in for, and which we're also going to be posting on the YouTube, youtube.com/livemancave. I'll post that link too. But yeah, I actually have run out of beer, CraigMakk. That's
wow.
I've run out of beer in the house.
That's the biggest drinking problem there is.
Except for like the few bottles of Budweiser Special Reserve with the Jim Beam bourbon, and I've just said no to that. Yeah. So I'm doing mixed drink liquor today. I didn't want to double up on that. I just did the bourbon a couple nights ago, and I'm gonna take it slow, and I'm gonna I'm gonna go to a steady of mine. It's in high supply around my neighborhood, but it's called Ron Barcelo Dominican Rum. Dominican Rum. Nice. The Gran Añejo version. I'm mixing it with some of that Simply Limeade. So that's what I'm drinking. How about you?
Last time you went to an alcoholic beverage that was an old favorite from the home country, we ended up learning way too much about your family's weird sexual proclivities. So I feel a little bit uncomfortable where this game might end up going right now. If I learn any more, I'm gonna call Jim immediately and be like, Jim, you gotta help me get on here because it's turned into therapy again, and I'm not qualified to handle that. All right, so
a few more of these glasses, I can be like, I've been practicing talking through my dick. Listen.
So for me, I have also gone to an old favorite for the brewer, but I'm not sure. I don't believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe that I have had this beer on the show before. I've had the beer before, but I don't believe on here. So this is the one that over the summertime I had talked about. I had gone to visit them. They're relatively close to us, right over in Philly. Evil Genius Beer Company, the ones who have all their names are either like, you know, it's always something based on it's always something based on pop culture or, you know, a movie line or a cartoon, something like that. So this is a new one they just released this month in January. So I'm pretty sure that we could not have talked about it because I don't think I did it on the last one we did. But it's called New Phone Who Dis. And
yeah. You have had that. It was either on I think on a Ready Player 2.
Oh, maybe
or on the MCU.
Okay, then
maybe it was on the MCU actually.
Maybe it was on the MCU. That's why I couldn't remember if I just had it like around like for the first time because I know I just had it for the first time like last week, and I'm like, we did so many things since then. We've played Ready Player 2 a couple times since then, as well as our upcoming Live from the Man Cave or Live from the MCU. So so this one is the caramel macchiato porter. And so
nice.
I'll just read it real quick again because I don't think I've ever read the actual full description, even if we did do it. But it's your favorite espresso beverage has now become your favorite adult beverage. Brewed with American barley, caramel and chocolate malt, and a touch of dark wheat, gently hopped with American and German hops, and then infused with caramel and locally roasted La Colombe coffee. Full-bodied, smooth, and robust with notes of sweet caramel, mocha, and chocolate. So, this is their seasonal, their seasonal release for the winter. It's their January caramel macchiato porter, and it's a porter with coffee and natural caramel added. So, yep, as you guys already know, I've had this one before. It is amazing, and I'm going to enjoy jumping on this. Oh, and this one is a 6% ABV, so we should be good to go.
Sweet.
Yeah. Oh, that tastes. It's just literally tastes like one of those like a sticky bun, like a caramel sticky bun or something like that. Like it's awesome. Yeah,
so like, is it like you can't drink too many of them because then you feel like you've had way too much dessert at one shot, or what?
I think this is not so much that it like you couldn't drink, like, you know, my biggest problem, and we've referred to it a lot on the show, were those ones where by like the third or fourth sip you're like, oh, okay, now it's gross because it like coated my tongue and it tastes too heavy of, you know, dessert or cherry or this or that or whatever. This one is not that bad, but what I can already tell is I know from the last time we did this, like by the second one you will definitely start to taste like you've had like you've just been sucking on caramel candies for like the last like hour, and you will start to be like, okay, I need to like switch it up with something else. So this is probably one where I'll only probably have this one, maybe have a second one if we get to it, depending on how long this goes. But I wouldn't either way be able to have more than that, because this is like a really good kind of dessert, you know, late night beer to just kind of sip on a little bit and just kind of let it warm you up, and it tastes like a nice little winter or Christmas dessert. So I'm gonna enjoy this one.
Roger that.
All right.
So let's talk about the format real quick of the show. Yes, so finally, we get to the actual game we're playing. Detroit Become Human.
No
I have played this game all the way through, and this game is like a butterfly effect game. So it really, the story will change depending on the choices you make. Like legitimately major changes, major things will be different depending on the choices you make. So I finished it, and I was like, man, I want to play through that game again, but I want to just choose shit just to choose shit to see what happens. But why don't I get Craig to play through the shit, see what he picks, and get to watch the story told differently, you know, from his point of view and how he sees the characters, etc., etc. And along the way, there's so many issues and there's so many things about the game that are just conversation starters, you know, things that remind us of real life, things that are just like, you know, worth talking about in the game itself, you know, all these different things. So the format is going to be Craig's going to play through the mission that we're currently doing, and this one is Fugitives. As you see, it's going to be mission 10, and then afterwards we're going to talk about it. All right, and it's worth noting the storyline up until this point. All right, there have been different characters. So far, their storylines haven't mixed yet. So this one just concerns Kara. All right, we encourage you to go back, and again, I posted in the chat, we have all old episodes, youtube.com/livemancave. Go back, watch the old episodes, see kind of what choices Craig made. If you don't want to stick around for the after discussion because they're too long, that's fine, but at least, you know, just watch the first 20 minutes, which contains the playthrough. But for these purposes, if you're tuning in live, you want to watch it live, you want to comment live, and you want to be caught up to speed, we'll tell you where we're at, what kind of choices Craig made up until this point. Originally, Kara was a android that somebody came back and recovered from what's basically looked like an iPhone store in the future, where they have all the androids and they just sell them, and they're all like reasonably priced, so everybody pretty much can afford one, even if you're poor. So they picked her up. She probably runs about the same price as like an iPhone or a Galaxy, to tell you the truth. They picked her up. The dude brought her back to you know, his shitty home in Detroit. And then it wasn't long before we found out that he was a pretty abusive guy. He you know, put her in a chokehold at one point, and then he started being abusive towards the little girl that was in the house. What's her name again? I don't know. I'm blanking on. Alice. There you go. Yeah. And Kara finally, watching the little girl get abused, had enough, and she broke through her programming and basically turned on her master and started fighting the guy to subdue him, grabbed the little girl, and ran out of the house, got her onto a bus while the guy screamed at them to come back, frustrated. So now we're picking up with this chapter called A New Home, and Craig's going to play the shit out of it.
I thought it was.
No, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
New Home is the old chapter.
Yep.
Yeah.
New Home is
Fugitives,
when they first got home. Yeah. So And just to reiterate on this, that we have already seen to this part and referenced in earlier chapters a number of the differences between my playthrough and yours. So just for people out there to kind of know, as we said, there are a lot of differences, or there are a lot of butterfly effect things that can happen. And we have already witnessed a number of things where some minor, right? Some like I didn't go through this door, I went out this back door, or something like that. Some much more major, right? And then we've seen the potential for things significantly more different to take place. But I would say a lot of the bigger decisions so far, you and I have been, in a lot of ways, we've been pretty close, which is kind of interesting, right? Because you're not framing any of these decisions up for me or giving me any assistance. I'm just making decisions, and then we're kind of realizing that a lot of them so far have been done similarly, except for probably the very first chapter with the way that it played out for you. So it'd be interesting to see if we continue that. So moving forward, and we do definitely point out when those things occur. When some of the differences occur, so we can kind of talk about why did I do one thing versus what you did. So you can prepare for that. To hear some of that as well when we do some of the after story stuff. So at that point, I think we're all good to go. We're ready to jump in and see what happens with these two as they're on the run from whatever that what was that douchebag's name that bought her? I can't even remember his name.
I don't remember.
I just feel like he was like
sounds
Carl.
right. Sounds right.
He sounds like Carl from like the Aqua Teen Hunger Force. The shitty neighbor.
That was a good show. I like that show.
Yeah. Oh boy, this. All right, let's see. I did love at the end too when he was like, "You have to obey." It's like when he just realized she didn't give a fuck. She was already on the bus leaving.
Yeah. No, I don't understand.
Have to obey me. John's Coffee. Here we go. Ooh, what was that movie? After Mankind. 3021.
Carl was the mentor, the owner / mentor for Marcus.
I thought that was Leo.
No, Leo was his son. Carl Manfred that's who Bishop was, the actor who played Bishop in Aliens.
Yep, makes sense.
I'm gonna look up on IMDb to find out who was
End of the line.
The abusive dude.
End of the line?
Yeah, you're gonna have to leave.
That might take me a while.
That's cool. She doesn't even know what end of the line means.
Wake up.
Wake up, little Alice.
We have to go.
Seriously, out of all of them, the graphics on that little girl are the most realistic.
The animation and everything is cool too. The way she moves and everything. I guess just awkwardly standing directly behind us.
Do you know if there's
Like,
any
you
other
got to
place
get the fuck out.
We got to go
I
home.
have no idea.
You got to get the fuck out of
You're gonna
here.
have to leave.
Cool. Thanks for your help, bud. I love how she's like, do you know of any places where we can get shelter? I'm a robot with a little kid. And he's like, yeah, I don't fucking know. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not providing any help. I don't know shit about that kid.
It's like, how about fuck you?
That bus didn't even wait for them to step off before it was already like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, Alice.
You gonna be okay? We'll find somewhere to spend the night.
Seriously, like the acting from the little girl is like makes me feel for her. Like seriously, like oh no, she's cold. Like I feel bad. I want to help. I want to give her a blanket.
Yeah, her little
Come on,
hunched up
we gotta
shoulders,
hurry.
she's all cold and stuff. Like they do a good job. Can I close this
Is it Todd?
Yeah.
That's who it was. Todd, I think, right? It was like, you have to obey me.
Yeah. Oh
We
god.
need a
Shit,
place to stay.
Todd.
Do you know anywhere we could spend the night?
Why'd he turn so weirdly and slowly? Oh god, he's horrifying. What the fuck is wrong with that robot? No?
He must be part of the creepy model. He must be one of those creepy models.
Yeah, that's why people are replacing their goddamn robots so fast. Oh
Yeah,
god,
he's like the.
Alice.
If they were cell phones,
Alice, get on the
he'd be
street.
like. He'd be like the fucking burner phone.
What is Alice doing? Why won't you come back yet? Alice won't come back to me. She was holding my hand, and now she won't come back. Let's hold hands out. Oh, that was cool! If you just stopped, Alice comes over and grabs your hand again.
There you go.
That's fucking cool.
You're like, come back. It's like, no, stranger danger, stranger danger.
I was like, I thought it said trusted on the screen. I thought we were cool. Won't open before morning. That's not great. Open 24/7. Can't stay.
So you can get coffee. John's organic coffee.
Comfortable but not discreet. We'll need money. Let's do it. Oh God, hold my hand. Alice. Alice, hold my hand. For the love of God, Alice. Oh, we don't have $40. I might jack somebody right now. God, I hope she gets... Oh no, androids allowed, you racists.
We're not going in?
We have
You
to
got
find
$40, kid?
$40 and get rid of this uniform.
Fuck off.
Or go somewhere else.
Jesus. Alright, let's see if I can. God damn it, Alice, please hold my hand. I hate that you keep letting go. Oh no. Trying to be discreet. Don't go that way. Ah, god damn it. God damn it. That guy fucking saw me. He's gonna be weird about it. What else is red? Get $40, find clothes. Awesome. Is there anything over there? No. Oh, this looks like it's gonna be a rough one. This might be a long playthrough, people. Strap in. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Just get a haircut, I guess, on here.
Snip off Alice's ponytail. There we go. That's
Problem solved.
Mhm.
And what else? Ah, there we go. Let's see. Drugstore. Shop is closed. Uncomfortable but safe. How to get in. Okay. There we go. Very uncomfortable but discreet. You know what? I should probably stay discreet. Let's move. Oh, God damn you, Alice! Where is she? Where the fuck is... Oh God, Alice, where are you?
Alice, you're freezing cold.
I'm okay. I'm not so cold.
She's like, you're bad at this. I'm gonna sit here and fucking sleep.
We have nowhere to
You're
go.
not good at life or games.
I know someone who can help you.
Oh. Oh, that's cool. Weird mind meld and shit.
But that's on the other side of town. We need a place for tonight.
Come on.
Come on, Alice.
Come on now. Get your ass up.
Thank you for using Detroit buses.
Hold my fucking hand, Alice. Hold my goddamn hand. Let's see what's going on.
An abandoned house. At least we'll be out of the rain.
Kara, I don't like this place.
I know. But it's just for one night, and no one will look for us here.
Kencut fence here with a life house. Damn, they're adding a lot of shit for me to do compared to other missions. Like, other ones are just like, clean the house and then fucking leave the house and you beat the mission. This one is like,
Yeah.
this is like a goddamn adventure
So
game.
you're starting to get in more into the story now.
Yeah.
There's no longer like vague philosophical shit, you know?
Right.
And choices you make will definitely be reflected.
Right. Let's see See, I was gonna stay in that one because it's in the house because it said like, it's discreet but uncomfortable, and this one said like very uncomfortable. But then the first thing when we walked up to it, it gave me a weird feeling because she was like, I don't like this place. I was like, well, let's see if she fucking complains about this shit all. I don't want to do something. Oh, man, look at her hiding out of the rain. Oh, she's so cute. Oh, wait, is the car okay? Is it gonna be alright?
It looks abandoned. Stand back, Alice.
Stand your ass back, Alice.
It's dry inside, and nobody will find us here.
I don't want to sleep in there.
Oh, you complain about
Find
everything.
a better place.
Okay. We'll find somewhere better.
Yeah, we're going back to the goddamn house now because there's one in here. Fucking terrifying. Let's see.
I actually do like that you're being forced to do more now.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Zero run, I can't remember. What? Oh, hold it.
Are you alright?
Yes, it's just a scratch. Be careful. Don't worry, we're just having a look.
She seems cool. Like they wrote the girl as believable as a little kid. Oh man, Alice, come on. Let's go. What the fuck, Alice? Fuck you! I take back what I said. You suck. Bitch. Hold my hand. I said hold my fucking hand. Alright. I guess I'm gonna squat in this house. Maybe not. Listen, say. Terrifying. We're playing a horror game now?
Alice?
Oh,
Alice!
you little piece of shit, Alice. You shit box. I told you to hold my fucking hand. Oh,
Wait,
man.
what are you doing?
Visitors. Ralph doesn't like visitors. They're nasty. They may hurt Ralph.
She's just a little girl. She's not gonna hurt you.
You're a dick.
Little girl. She's not a little girl. Anyway, what does that matter? Maybe she wants to hurt Ralph.
Look, I'm an android too. We have nothing to be afraid of. All we want is a place to spend the night.
Visitors are dangerous. Look. What they did to Ralph.
Ugh, Jesus.
You have nothing to worry about. We're not going to do you any harm. You have my word.
I like whoever the voice actor is for Kara.
You must excuse Ralph.
Valerie
control himself.
Curry.
Sometimes his fear makes him do things he
Got a really
regrets.
good voice.
Ralph has seen some hard times.
Yeah. She was in
He's so
Twilight.
scared the humans will get him again.
It's also the Blair Witch Project.
You can stay if you want.
No, not the Blair Witch Project. She was in Blair Witch, whatever that is.
Okay.
Do it. Ralph's
We'll just
fucked
stay the
up,
night.
but- Look at him doing his knife dance. I love it.
Come.
Woo.
Come on.
He got real excited.
Ralph has lived here since he ran away.
It's a fucking weirdo.
Check out my knife
Ralph never goes
dance.
outside, so no one knows
Do
he
that
lives
when
here.
people stay over right
He
before
would
I
come in
kill
to
them.
squat from time to time, but, you know, Ralph just hides till he leaves.
Look at Alice looked at you.
I'm actually back on board. I like Ralph now again. He seems funny. Yeah, but Ralph just hides till he leaves. It's all good.
You can make yourself at home here.
Get your face fixed, Ralph.
Ralph is gonna go into the other room. He would like to stay with you. He has things to do.
It's just for one night, Alice. We'll find a better place tomorrow.
Fuck,
Right.
that hotel's looking pretty solid right
Let's
now.
see where you can sleep.
We fucked up.
Sit down and I'll start a fire.
Hope she gets more acting gigs after this.
Who? Which one?
Valerie Curry.
Yeah.
Cara?
She's real good, yeah. She emotes very well, like with her voice, you know, like.
She also played, you know, that long trailer of this game where they were like.
Yeah, that was the original. I think that thing was.
Yeah.
I think that robot's name was Kara also. Right?
Kara,
Yeah,
right,
that's the name
right.
of that clip is just called Kara. That was fucking amazing. I thought that like blew my
Yeah.
mind how cool the acting was in that, and how like how much you believe her emotion when she's like, "Please don't do this to me." Like it's just so fucking good. Oh man, we got video games here and shit. This is awesome. Oh, is he taking a leak? That's pretty cool. Oh no, he's right. Okay. I thought he was peeing in the corner. Up. Just conveniently had all this stuff to make a fire. That's pretty cool.
Oh, she had to go find it around the house.
Go
Old
around one
abandoned
room.
house.
They just conveniently had all that stuff in different corners of one room. Alright. What do you need me to do now? I go talk to this wackabee.
RA9.
Love how he's like, Ralph would love to stay, but Ralph's
What
got
does
shit
that
to
mean?
do. And then he just walks in, he's just carving up a wall.
What?
Oh,
Yeah,
so you
serious.
do crazy things.
Why are
Got
you
it.
writing
Okay.
that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Damn, his face is fucked. Make a bed for us. Okay. Oh, he also wrote I'm alive. Okay. Because that's what the other android wrote. Above the Carlos Ortiz dude that he murdered. Oh shit. Androids be going crazy. Look at this. Allison, you were complaining. Look at this fucking baller place I got set up for you.
You can come to bed.
Next to
I did what I
crazy-ass
could.
Ralph.
It's not much, but at least you'll be warm.
didn't he ever love me? Why was he always so upset with me? All I wanted was a life like other girls. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I wasn't good enough. That's why he was always so angry. I just wanted us to be a family. I just wanted him to love me. Why can't we just be happy?
Is it a kid that's playing the girl's voice too, or is it an adult
You'll never leave
pretending?
me, right? Promise you'll never go.
I will check on that, but I believe.
I promise.
Will we be together forever?
I want to say that it's a kid
Forever.
because it's an actress that they're using for the kid, right?
Yeah, true. I just wasn't sure if they did the voice. Like if they, sometimes they'll get an adult to play, and then just model the kid after somebody, like after an actual kid. Especially if like fucked up shit's gonna happen in the game, they sometimes don't want there to be a kid. Like,
True.
Fucked up shit.
You've got to sleep.
Like if she just got knifed by fucking Ralph. Fucking
Sleep tight,
crazy.
Alice.
Yelling RA9 and just jacks her.
The little girl is Audrey Bustani.
And she is a little kid.
Let me see.
That's just actually pretty cute.
Doesn't have any on IMDb. It has no info for her really, other than this is her only acting gig.
Yeah, then maybe she is just a kid, and that's why they don't have info on her. Alice is liking me at least. Alright, did I just beat it? Beat it! Here we go. Oh, I got another trophy for that one. Wow, damn.
Alright, so
that makes sense because there's a lot of shit could have done. Like, I mean, there were like obviously the 3 different places we could have stayed at, so that's cool.
yeah, so I'm gonna say, like other ones, I think the best way to address this, or like the more recent ones, is just go through the timeline and talk through stuff as it comes up. Because there's no major issue that I feel like we should highlight right from jump. It's just more about the choices you made, how they made you feel, the gameplay, what you think of the story, that kind of stuff, which we can cover as we go along.
Yep.
Again, as Craig mentioned before we started, we like to click that triangle button, which Craig has already done, and get the world stats on the choices we made and how it compares to the rest of the world.
Yep.
So, let's get it cracking.
Cool. All right. So
running
up
through the
top, we
timeline.
always just do point out. So first thing, 27% completed. So this was a heavily divergent episode where because we've had some episodes where I've had like 85% or something like that, of paths, which means sometimes, I find like some Easter egg stuff, but a lot of times that's just because a lot of it kind of just had to happen that way. Whereas obviously this is much more of one of those episodes where there were pretty divergent paths to take, where by doing one thing it's not like an Easter egg, you're just actually locking out other things that you could have done, such as the place I went to sleep tonight. So 27%, I think that could be the lowest that I've had in terms of finding, I think, in terms of completing.
I completed 43% on this one.
Oh, wow, you fucking killed it. That's pretty amazing. I'm interested to see some of the things you did differently then.
Yeah, I took a little bit of a different path than you did, but we did a lot of the same things the same as well, so that's always interesting.
Cool. Nice. All right, so public opinion still skeptical, but Alice went. She went up. I mean, she was already trusted, but it showed that she was going up. So whatever I did,
she trusted you even more.
Yeah, she continues to trust me, and which I guess is good, but I'm sure will fuck me at some point. So, all right. So last stop, and then you had to leave the bus, and then it's find shelter for the night. So here's where a bunch of different divergent paths already stop right out of there. So talk to the parked android. 67% of people did that. I'm assuming that is the crazy one, right? The one that just looked at me weirdly and then looked back, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So there's nothing else you could really do with that, obviously. I mean, there was no other, because there's nothing branching off of that. There's just the second path that goes through it and above that I didn't take.
Okay, yeah. Okay, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I did have that. I have that path filled in.
Okay.
It was enter the laundromat, which I was
Oh, okay.
surprised you didn't do, especially since one of the things was find clothes.
Oh,
So you're
fuck yeah,
still
you're
rolling
right. You're
around in
right.
this
You're right.
Android thing, and
Yep.
I was like, I want to get out of this fucking Android thing that shows I'm a fucking Android, and so I went inside the laundromat. I can tell you more about what happened if
Yeah.
you
No,
want.
that's actually pretty cool. Yeah. Tell me.
I inspected a dryer. I ended up stealing some clothes from the dryer, and then I put the clothes on. So, whereas
That's
you're
pretty
still
awesome.
wearing an entry uniform, I had like a little,
Like
some
a regular outfit.
like I think like a hoodie and a beanie, and got some clothes for Kara, and they were like dry clothes and stuff like that. And then we left the laundromat,
That's pretty cool. So
and it
that's
came up
smart.
with a couple other news articles, which we won't cover for these purposes since they
Right.
didn't come up in your story.
Okay.
But
Fuck. That's a bummer that I
just in the
didn't go
interest
in
of
there.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then let's see. We both
Talk to the
scroll
Android
over a little
trash
more
collector.
to the scroll a little more over to show all the stuff for find shelter for the night.
Yep. I did.
See if you had these
So you
open.
can
Yeah,
check
you
that
checked
stuff.
the motel like I did, 73%. You checked the parking lot like I did, because that's how I got into the flat as well.
Yep.
Checked the squat like I did. You talked to the Android trash collector like I did, and 99% of the people did.
Yep.
Um, what you didn't do under talk to the Android trash collector, I also went into the supermarket,
Okay.
right? And that is where we could have found money for money
Oh, to
for
go
the
into the
hotel.
hotel. That's pretty cool.
Right, you would have had to like steal it.
So is that what
So
goes
I went
down
into
here?
the supermarket. I talked to the clerk. I noticed the cash register. I noticed a stack of cans. I stole a chocolate bar for Kara. And
lot of cool
I
shit
told
that
her to leave a toy behind because she wanted to steal a toy. And then the clerk caught me stealing. So before I got to steal from the cash register, I tried to steal some like a chocolate bar or something for her.
for
Yeah, I
Alice, you
stole a
mean?
chocolate bar for Alice.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for Kara, sorry. And then so I got caught and was told to leave the supermarket, so I couldn't get my hands on money, which made me have to go fuck around with that parking lot and find a way into the squat like you eventually did as well.
Right. That's cool. All right.
So you want to take it from
Yeah.
check the
So
squat and follow that?
yep. So then I did inside the parking lot. So all this stuff is that's the shit that you did when you broke in, I assume. Or when
Except
went
you
and
did
stole
one thing
clothes.
I'm not sure that I did. Yeah, I didn't. All right, so you broke into the car, which I didn't. That was never an option for me. So basically, there were three places you could have stayed. One of them would have been that car. The other one would have been the motel. And then the other one was squat, where both you and I ended up. But what happened was I got my hands on clothes, but I couldn't find money because I got caught stealing, so I got kicked the fuck out. So then I went to that parking lot, and I didn't end up breaking into the car because I found the wire cutters first and cut my way into where the squat was.
Gotcha. Yeah, because mine has break into the car, but then decide to find another option. So
Right.
obviously, once you break in the car, you can either stay in it or not. As all of the places you can, I assume, maybe go into them and then choose to go a different direction once you get in there. So then,
I don't think it didn't show like you had much of a choice once you encountered Ralph in that squat, right?
Oh yeah, true. You're right. Yeah, it doesn't look like the. Yeah, the squat. Well, it says take wire
Maybe. I
cutters.
guess you could have said.
There's a split off take wire cutters between cut parking lot fence and something else. Oh, because you could enter it from either side. You can go from the parking lot fence or you can go through the main outside fence, I guess. So there's two different ways you can cut in there. So I took the parking lot fence like you did. And then enter squat. Yeah, it looks like it. Well, no, because it says meet Ralph, and then you cannot convince him to go, or it looks like there's a divergent path below it after meeting Ralph where you, I guess, maybe don't go in. That's the lower path. Because
Could be because I got mine looks
goes up
identical
convince.
to yours at this point.
Yeah, it goes
for
convince,
this
follow
line.
Ralph, start a fire, make a bed, talk to Alice. So at this point, we're at like a little less than half the people chose what we did because it's 47% convince, 44% follow Ralph, 44, talk to Ralph. So 1% of people didn't make the promise, and 41% of people chose to make the promise.
Who are those sociopaths?
I know.
Yeah, I've like even if shit wasn't necessarily going to be all right, I didn't feel like it was the time start
Exactly.
spitting hard truths at the little
No,
girl.
yeah, absolutely. That's and then same deal. It says 1% of people chose to sleep next to her, and only 2% said to watch her from the chair, like a fucking
Fucking
psychopath.
Norman Bates' mom.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. You're just like, I'm just gonna hover over you, kid.
I don't need sleep. I'll just watch you.
Right. I get my sleep from your fear.
Yeah.
Oh God, Alice. I don't know if I trust you anymore, Kara. So so all of this stuff when you go up to the top, so half of this, so the lower one, it looks like all comes off of the car, which none of us did. So it looks like, so again, all of them have multiple things that come off of. It's not just like, oh, you picked the car and then you just fell asleep and that was the end of the night. Because there's like, off of finding the car, there's 1, 2, 3, then a choice 4, then another thing 5, then another thing 6. So there's like 6
Right.
things, whatever those things could be. I mean, they could be like find a blanket, right? But I mean, at least multiple things had to happen after you choose the car before you get to whatever your end, thing is, which ours was like Alice and Cara stayed in the squat, which 44% of people chose to do. So, and then coming off of the check the motel, there is, I assume that like probably right up here is where you get into the place because it looks like a bigger square, and usually the bigger squares are like the kind of larger decision points. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a decision 7, 8, 9. So 9 things happen after you decide to stay in the motel. Like so in terms of decisions. And then that one that was above talk to parked Android was, I think you said, go into the store. Was that? Above talk to park Android, was that to go into the laundromat or the store?
Hold on. So I'm talk to park Android. So that's back and find shelter for the night. That is enter laundromat.
Okay, so there was a shitload that happened after enter laundromat. I mean, but again, some of that stuff. Oh no, okay, no, there's only 4. So that is the stuff that was like find a dryer, steal the clothes.
Basically find the dryer, steal clothes, right.
Yeah. And then did you unlock those 2 little things above it that looks like it's a hidden decision above the laundromat one that I don't know what it comes off of at all? It looks like it just starts by itself.
Above the laundromat one, let's see.
It's just like,
could you scroll down a little bit so I could. So how do you? I don't know where.
So find shelter for the night, and then you go up from find shelter for the night.
Okay, like directly above it.
Yeah, there's the laundromat, and then there's that little box.
That little box is read.
Oh, that's to read the 2 articles. Okay.
Articles, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that were inside.
Oh, that's why they come off of nothing, because they don't spawn out of anything. It's just you either find them or you don't. Okay, that makes sense. And then all this shit, which I don't even know what this is, because this. Oh, was this? I guess this was there was break into the store and steal, because there's a fuckload of things that can happen down here. It looks like that's an entire tree. That's the supermarket to steal the food and the.
Wait. Go back to it. That bottom tree.
Yeah.
That is.
That's the supermarket, right?
Into the supermarket, right? And that's where you start walking around the store.
Right.
And
there's
shit can go either way.
You can do there apparently. I mean, that just looks like tons of choices and options. That's pretty cool. So that was a pretty packed one in terms of options. And like I said, that was the first one that felt the most like a kind of like a Telltale or like an adventure game where it was like, okay, if you want to do this, then go find this and go find one of these, and then like break into here and like I mean,
right.
It's not heavy, like it wasn't hard to figure stuff out because you're in a limited space. I mean, especially even in that board alone, there was like if you walked farther than a block, they were like, don't go this way, like the red thing would pop up. So it wasn't like you were like exploring.
I will say that it got tense.
It did.
It got tense for the supermarket and in the laundromat because you were doing illegal shit and you were trying not to get noticed.
Right.
So like the tension was high in there. And then, you could probably weigh in about Ralph. I thought that situation was pretty tense too.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely seemed like crazy.
Especially scary because she's got the little kid with her.
Right.
And he's, he could do anything.
Right. Almost exclusively scary because of Alice, right? Because if it's not, I mean, you'd mostly feel like, whatever. I mean, we've established that they can get fucked up, so it's not like you're not worried about her getting hurt. but you mostly feel the tension because of the mother-daughter relationship, that they established with there's a kid here, and you want to make sure you keep track of her. And he was obviously, especially at the beginning, he's like a loose fucking cannon where you're like, I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about. I don't know what he's doing. Like, he might just fucking knife her right now. So like that was kind of, that was intense. Although by the end, I thought he was fucking hilarious because when he did his little happy knife dance, I was like, this motherfucker's awesome. I'm definitely down with whatever the fuck Ralph is about.
Somebody worked him over real good, man.
He really did get the shit beat out of him. He looked really fucked up, which that sucks. I did think.
Hey, the one thing I don't see on your decision tree that I didn't remember happening to me was when she ran into that random dude that looked like Ralph. And he was like, I can show you where you need to go. And he did a little fucking Android meld thing.
I thought that was
I don't remember that happening in my storyline. Was it the trash collector? Okay.
That was the trash collector because he steps off the truck. Like when you walk over to that corner and the girl sits down, that happens automatically. Because that's why it says 99% of people that happen to. Because I think anyone that didn't go immediately over to the motel and just figure out the motel immediately.
Oh, then I did talk to him.
Yeah, they never go by. They never go by him because there was nothing I did other than walk in to that direction. So I think that's why it's probably 99% of people because almost everyone probably walks around at least for a minute to figure out what's happening, and then they,
All right, I had to have talked to him then, because he's highlighted on my screen.
Right.
And given what I know of the storyline, it makes sense I would have talked to him. So.
Right. I assume something obviously comes out of that conversation that at some point that's where I'm going to need to go. And so like
possibly
so they did a good job because of the way the game has been set up to this point. I mean, you were talking about tension before, like the part of where, if you go back to an earlier episode where I had said one of my biggest hang-ups in games like this is that I am very much I do get the bug of being a completionist where I'm like, I'm going to wander around every little, like if you're telling me my mission is to walk over to the left, I'm definitely going to go to the right and see if there's anything hidden there that like would be an interesting, codex to read or like an audio book or like, all the shit that they hide in games like that, right? Where like you always find this little hidden thing. So that is, I am notorious at that I want to fucking like 100% this area before I move on. And so because this, like in the beginning, I was like, this is going to be a problem for me because that's how I always do things. And then because they were so good out of the gate at creating this, idea of whether it's always true or, whether it was, whether it's only sometimes true, but they created the idea that at any point in time, shit can happen whether you want it, whether you advance the story or not. So at that point, when I got to that point, I was like, I'm wandering around. I'm not like I know I have to figure out a place for this kid. Like the kid looks cold. Like she's starting to say like, oh, I'm cold. I'm gonna go sit down because I'm cold now. Like that kind of stuff. Like it started creating this tension. I was like,
let me get us
I just need to get us right. I need to figure something out.
Car.
Yeah. What's the first?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna sleep in the car for a second, and then you were like, yeah, I feel bad. The little girl's looking at that car like.
Right. Well, and it's funny because remember
it
when
was
I went
funny listening to you.
Right.
Like that decision happened, and like you could hear, oh fuck, fine. Right. You're like, I have an answer right here. There's shelter right here. He's like, I don't want to sleep in there. God damn it.
Right.
Fine.
But the funny thing was too, because that was the reason why I didn't sleep in the house. Remember in the first place, because she was like, I don't want to sleep here, and I was like, all right, let's go to the shittier place. But I want to see what she has to say. And it almost like in my head, like if we were straight up role playing this, like I imagined it almost where you're like, all right, so let me show my kid, here's option B. And they're like, they're going to be spoiled and shitty about it. And they're going to be like, no, I don't want those, like, I don't want that pair of shoes or whatever. They look like garbage. And you're like, all right, fine. Let me pull option fucking F. That's a real fucking shithole, like fucking kangaroos
fucking
or
jellies.
some shit. Right, yeah. And then when the kid sees that and they're like, ew, this is horrible, then you're like, cool, we're going back to the original option B, and you're going to fucking like it now because now you see how bad shit can be. So part of me, like, was, not that I was, like, doing it maliciously, but I was just like, I showed you the house, you didn't like it, I found this other thing that was this fucking shithole car, and then she was like, hell no, I don't want to sleep there. And I was like, okay, cool. In my head, it almost felt like she'll probably be cooler with the house now because now that she's seen how bad it could be, almost like we'll be maybe in this together. So it actually.
And then you literally got a
head.
knife put to her throat.
Right, and then immediately I was like, man, should have stayed in the fucking car, kid. But it's okay because now I feel like maybe Ralph will protect us. So I don't know. At least he's got a knife. So we'll see. Who knows how it'll play out?
Yeah.
But so yeah, no. So it was kind of interesting that it did work out that way, like that. We checked one, then went to the other, and then went back to the first one, kind of specifically because of that reason. But I was definitely playing that like as I would if I was Kara, where I think Kara would not have just been like, "Fuck you, kid! Like we're just going in this place anyway because it's it is the most discreet and hidden place, and we'll be fine, and no one will see us, and yes, it'll suck for you, but." We'll get over it and we have to move on and stay alive. Like I do think she would have been like, I have to try to, I have to try to make this as least shitty and stressful for this kid that I essentially just kind of semi-abducted, I guess. Like I don't want to make it be horrifying for her when it's already shitty. So I thought she probably would have been like, okay, let's try to find a better place. And they do a pretty decent job, at least in terms of, like we said, I mean, I said it many times, the acting and the emotion that they are able to portray makes you feel for the characters more as people than just as like a fucking, as just an NPC, that you're fucking wandering around on a map with.
How do you like the style of this episode versus the other ones that you played so far? Now that this one was more like a video game, right? Than the other ones, which were more like orientation, but even our conversations the other ones are like large scale issues, philosophical, and although the gameplay itself wasn't necessarily that much story driven or exciting, it definitely opened up the door for us to talk about a lot of big picture general issues in life and stuff. And this one was just more straight story, like, yo, you see that motherfucker put the knife to the kid's throat? That shit was crazy,
Yeah. So I do think that the way they are kind of rolling out the gameplay, or like almost setting the table of this game, it is, it reminds me a lot of games, like 15 years ago when they would do that thing where it's like, okay, so you're going to play this game as 3 different people, and like the one guy's like a tank and the other guy's like a wizard and the other guy's a this or whatever, and like you're going to play each board is going to be slightly different, that kind of thing. Like it's almost the way they're rolling out this game is like when you're going to be Connor, you're going to be doing more like investigation, like walk into a place and find the things that you need to solve what happened and then piece together what happened from there. Like when you're when you're Connor, I mean, when you're Marcus, you're going to be kind of more direct, like interplay with another character. So it's going to be like just kind of living a life, talking to this character, piecing through his life and kind of seeing what's happening around him, right? And then when you're Kara, it seems a little bit more like now it's a little bit more like driven by the mechanics, right? Like even the mission is, even though it was technically quote unquote boring, the one where it was like clean the house was about you learning the mechanics of like, here's how you pick things up, here's how you, like, it tells you to go look for a thing, now you have to find it, you have to go clean that thing up. Like, so that stuff that we learned then applies to now, where they're like, all right, remember when you had to clean the house? Well, now you're basically doing that, but look for wire cutters or find money or find clothes and like do the mechanics. So it's a little bit more kind of gameplay mechanic driven. So it's cool because they keep jumping around, it breaks it up, right? So you don't ever really feel like a thing goes on too long, because right when you're like, okay, enough of that, I'm ready to see a little bit more, like, I want to solve another fucking crime, they jump over to Connor, or I want to see a little bit more of just like the like kind of mundane bullshit that an android deals with. Let's go see like Marcus's life, right? And so, although obviously they've also established things can change pretty quickly, right? So just like Marcus, we assume next time we see Marcus is going to be crazy because of the last episode is like when Leo died, and I'm assuming, and the cops came and I fucking shot him, right?
Yep.
So yeah,
the next one with him will be interesting.
Right.
The next one with him, I can promise you, will be interesting.
Right. So I think the way they've established is like there is a kind of a separation of church and state between the different ways that the chapters of each character is rolled out. But they also, at least as far as we played to this point, have shown it can also probably change. So we'll see what happens. But I thought that was cool. Like I said, I mean, I'm obviously a huge fan of like the telltale kind of. I love adventure games. I mean, that's what I grew up on, like King's Quest and Space Quest and fucking Monkey Island and all that kind of shit. So this one felt the most like that of any of the chapters we've done so far, where it was, here's a problem, you have to solve it, and there's a bunch of different options, and you can kind of figure out the one that makes the most sense for you, and then go from there. And I kind of like the way that was laid out, while also having like a nice dose of tension behind it, so you felt like there was a clock running. Whether or not, again, I'm not sure yet, because I've not yet been able to have the balls to like test the system. So I'm not entirely sure if they just kind of created that expectation that could happen up front with the when the cop got shot because I took too long during the investigation on the first hostage mission. I don't know if they do that every single time, or if that was more of just a like, let's just kind of subvert your expectations right out of the gate so that maybe you're too nervous to ever test us again. And that would actually probably be pretty like brilliant on their part if they were just like, let's kind of do the opposite of what you think we're going to do. And then you probably, if you're playing the game right, won't want to test it again because you're going to be invested in the characters enough to not want to do it, so they don't have to do that every single chapter. But
I would hope you would play it with the aim as to what you think the individual character would do.
Exactly. So like once they get you to buy into the characters that you care about them and you want to make decisions for them, that you're not just going to be like, I'm just going to walk away AFK for a while and let everyone die because I just went to go get a beer, right? Like so they've created that expectation that shit
or
could
just
go.
to see what would happen. Like I would hope that you would think like, okay, well, I think this character would do this, so I'm going to do this.
Especially in a situation where things are so widely branching, to just do it just to see what's going to happen, that could fuck up so much downstream for you. If you care about the story, then that's actually like counterproductive to getting enjoyment out of playing the game. Because if you're just like, let me see if I can kill him, like, I mean, we've definitely all done that, right? We've all found games where you're like, I'm just going to test the mechanics and see, like, what happens if I drive the opposite direction? Does the game fucking stop me from doing that? Do I fucking die? Like, do I fucking drive over people? Like, everyone has found things like, how do you break a game? This game doesn't feel like the kind of game where you'd want to do that because, like, you're not, what do you get out of that? You're just like, oh, cool, I killed Connor. Oh, fuck, now he's dead. And I cannot play with him anymore.
And now you miss out on a whole part of the story, right?
Like that just seems like you're just kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face. So at this point, you're trying to make the right decision, as evidenced by, I mean, there were a couple times you even saw while playing where, like, when I had a decision to make, and because they give you that timer, there were very few decisions of what I said where I made a decision instantly. I was usually kind of giving myself just enough time to get right down to the wire, almost like, calling timeout right before the the clock hits zero, because I wanted to really think like, okay, so I'm thinking I could say this, but if I say this, like, here's how it could backfire, but so maybe I should say this, but like, what could that also cause? And eventually then you just have to like go with your gut and say, all right, fuck it, I'm going to persist, or I'm going to say I'm an android, don't worry about it, like that kind of shit. And so when you take it seriously like that, it makes the gameplay more, it just adds that extra layer of tension that, like I said, whether it is artificial from a gameplay mechanic but very real from a story-driven mechanic, it kind of doesn't really matter. Like it just means they did a good job at least creating that connection to the characters,
tension, right?
To the gameplay, that
tension, investment, like feeling of accountability.
Right. Yeah. And that is assuredly, whether it is, like I said, whether there are time constraints or not, they have clearly established your accountability for these characters. So you do feel, and especially for me, very similar to you, because I often, I mean, we have our thing going right now with the live from the MCU, like where we're literally playing like a tabletop role-playing game. But my favorite game. My favorite genre of games, my top two favorites are role-playing games are my favorite overall, and adventure games are my second favorite. So like, I am very highly story-driven. That is what I care much more about story even than I care about mechanics in a lot of ways. Like if you tell me a good story, I'm way more apt to overlook, like, I don't know, he looked a little wonky the way the guys moved, or like the shooting wasn't great. But if the story was fucking epic, I'll be like, that was cool, right? Whereas obviously there are some people who are like, all I care about is like, I want the shooting to be on point, and I don't give a fuck if it is the worst fucking story of all time. Like I don't fall into that camp. So
those games have their place. Like they're the John Wick of video games, right?
I actually think you're
not
probably
much of the story, but
I think you're underselling John Wick in that is even better than like that is much more like going to see like the most popcorn, ass like summer movie, where you're just like, there's literally no story to this, but it looks cool and shit blows up real nice.
Fucking shoot
like,
them up, yeah, exactly.
Right, like that's like your Call of Duty, right? Where you're like, I just want it. The fucking it moves like 60
That's good
frames
stories
per
in
second.
Call of Duty. There's some good story in some of the Call of
I
Duty.
guess I was talking more like
not
your
like Soap
multiplayer.
McTavish.
I know, I agree with you. I was talking more like the people that are like, I don't even play the single player. All I play is the multiplayer.
I got you.
I want it to move fluidly at 60 frames per second, and I want the shooting to be like fucking like pixel perfect. Where if I want to headshot somebody from fucking a mile away, like I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that is not what I primarily look for in games. That is like it's a secondary bonus, but I will always take a good story over, like perfect mechanics, because that's what keeps me invested in wanting to come back, is because I get hooked on a story. That's also the same reason why I get like super invested in, like we've talked about before, in procedure or in ongoing shows, right? Like shows that aren't just like you can walk in and out on any given day, and it's just like it's a cool, story about the people, but it doesn't like I like shows where it is from week to week. You have to stay invested in the show because it's the story that keeps me coming back, as the characters, and so. That's the one thing that this game is definitely doing, is trading on my desire to, in a game like this, to role play, right? To play as the character, to not make the shitty like, oh, let me just be the dick. Let me just see what happens. Let me just choose the most outrageous option because I just want to see if something funny happens. But to be like, here's how I think Connor would react, or here's how I think what Kara would say. And subtly, obviously, you get to drive those decisions by making those characters. But the funny thing is, at the same time, in a game like this, at the same time, while you, like, for example, like in this case with Kara, I am making decisions based on what I think Kara would say, what my perception of Kara already is, and the irony of all of that is, by making those decisions, I am creating the Kara that I want to create. So you think in your head, oh, well, this is how Kara is. Yeah, this is how Kara is, so I'm going to answer that way. But in reality, it's like she can be whatever you want based within the constraints of the answers that you can give. But like she can be any different number of things. You are kind of creating the one, so it becomes this like you fill in your own prophecy, right? It's that self-fulfilling prophecy of she becomes what you thought she was already by you making the decisions. And you can subtly nudge those throughout the course of the story, right? Like you can make her start to become more like, let's say if I'm sure decisions will come up where she'll be able to be more like forceful or like, like aggressive, whereas so far I've been much more like submissive and protective. Like those have been my two things, is like be chill because she's still kind of getting used to all this stuff, but also be very kind of motherly and protective of the child. But that's just because that's the way I've chosen that I think she would be reacting. And over time,
and that's by design.
Change. Right, yeah.
That's by design in the game. Like they definitely want you to, like, you could play Kara's badass bitch, who's just like toughen up, little girl, or you could play Connor as like Connor could be like fuck my programming. I'm gonna question right from the door. You know what I mean? Right. Like what the fuck is going on? And they'll have different consequences in the game. You'll see like stories develop differently, but I like. Just watching it a second time and watching you make decisions, part of me is a little disappointed that and I don't want this to alter your gameplay. I do want you to play it true to yourself and how you see it, but part of me is a little disappointed that I'm watching you end up in the same place as I ended up. Like I was hoping that you would fare better than me and actually get into the motel just so I could see what that's like. Right. Or I was hoping you would sleep in the car because I just wanted to see how that worked out. Right. You know what I mean? Then again, you would have missed out on Ralph and the whole nine, and so I mean, so it's good for you in a way. It's good that you played it out. It's also funny that we're ending up in the same places because we tend to be more similar than we think sometimes. Right. And
actually, I will say too, the one funny thing about the motel, not to cut you off, but I was just going to say, the motel was the one where I did not really give it much thought at all right out of the gate, because the thing that freaked me out that I didn't like about it was that when you do the search, that it straight up says like it is not discreet at all, and I was like, yeah, this doesn't seem like a thing Kara would be like, hey, let's just walk right into the motel when I clearly am new to this shit. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. maybe I like unless like I guess you could see it like, oh, she's
You're like,
naive.
I'm gonna end up getting fucking redelivered back to fucking
Right.
what's his face,
Right, you
and
could
then
see
he's
that maybe she's
naive.
naive and she'd be like, "Oh, let's go into the motel because that's like where I want the kid to stay because she's kind of too naive to realize it's dangerous." But the fact that the game, when she did the searching, made sure to tell me that was, I mean, because that's not outside of the game. That's literally her doing her like detective vision. Her detective vision comes back saying not discreet at all. So my assumption was like, okay, even she's aware
In
this
the
is
back
probably
of
not a
Todd's gonna
great
be
move.
fucking
Right.
carving pieces off of you before.
Right, exactly. Like right before the end of the night, she's going to be like without two arms, and like half a leg. And so I was like, that's probably not a good move. So it's cool. Like I said, even that one, it wasn't because I tried to do it and failed. It was more because I just looked at that as like, it just doesn't seem like this would be a smart move for her to make. T-minus 1 hour into being a child abducting android who's like on the run. She's trying to probably be like, let's be safe and try to be as like comfortable for this kid as we possibly can be. But anyway, back to what you were saying about things being similar,
No, but that's it. I do really though like going back and seeing this play out again, and this time through, I'm noticing things I didn't completely notice before. Now knowing things that I did,
right?
Knowing the things that I do. So just really, it's a really cool experience watching it back again. I really like this game a lot.
Yeah.
So and I hope you seem to be enjoying it as much as I did the first time through.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I would say overall, I mean, other than the few, like there's always going to be some of the like issues with some of the storytelling and whether it's heavy-handed or not and some of that stuff, but that's stuff that has been that's not special or unique to this game. That's just kind of a thing that has persisted in other games, especially David Cage's some of his other games. But there's nothing to this point that I would say has been like egregious where I'm like, okay, now this is terrible, right? Like I don't even get like what you're once you're willing to accept that, like, okay, we get it, or like at least I'm willing to accept, like, because I know you and I differ a little bit on this point, but like once I was willing to accept, okay, so I get it, you're just really trying to make your magnum opus about racism, which like that is the thing that's the story you're trying to tell, and you're trying to tell that in the most earnest way possible, which some people could perceive that as being like naive to the fact that like this story's been told before and you're acting like this is the first time it's ever been done. Whereas to me, I'm just like, hey, whatever, man. Different, what's the word? Different mediums are different, right? Like the version, this may have been told via like movies in Blade Runner and shit like that, but like not a whole lot of games that I can think of have told this type of story this in depth. So that you have to give some credit to that, right? You have to be willing to say, like, it's different because it's in a different medium, and that's why like there are movies that retold the same plots that were told in books from 200 years ago, but it's cool because it's now a movie and that's a different way to experience that story, and so you have to give it credit for that because that's important. So
I just think if you're gonna really fully like enjoy this, you need to forget about the fact that David Cage made this. Forget about throw out in your head all of the different critics that you're already kind of anticipating coming in and trying to berate you for enjoying it or for not enjoying it, on both sides. Just enjoy it for what it is. I mean, it's like a good story, I think, so far that like this has been yeah, the game is entertaining. It's entertaining. It's base. You can get into nitpicking. Did he write it this way? Did he write? I mean, the bottom line is like it's holding your attention. It's intriguing. It's exciting. It's keeping you, with a kind of under a constant duress in a way about every decision you make.
Incredibly well acted. Like I agree with you and everything you've said that the acting goes a long way, because if this was like cheesy and like. If this was cheesy, like, they just got the guy from marketing to come in and pretend to be Marcus because that's like they didn't have the budget. Like this game would probably suck, right? If it was.
We've seen that before in other games, yeah.
Right.
And it ruins it.
I mean, if it was close to A Way Out, like in terms of acting, this game would probably suck because A Way Out was held together by the kind of uniqueness of the like dual gameplay that some of the moments that we got to kind of create our own fun out of some of the wackiness that was happening in that game. But like this game,
It's funny you say that though, Greg, because
Yeah.
I think the good acting could have actually really boosted that
what
game.
A Way Out?
A Way Out.
Oh,
I think it would have
absolutely.
been significantly
Absolutely.
better.
Absolutely.
It's
I mean,
really
it
good.
could have
Like if
been
they
like
had taken
it could have
two
been like
actors
Heat.
that we.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the story wasn't good enough. I think to be Heat.
No,
To be fair, but it could
right,
have,
but again,
if you
right.
take two fucking star actors and put them
Right.
side by side, you'd be like, you know what? This is kind of a cheesy story, but listening to
Right.
these two motherfuckers could have been talking about like
Right.
one of them walking his dog, and that morning, and the other motherfucker talking about how he hates taking the trash out, and I would have still had a good fucking time.
I guess that was probably hyperbole. Let me roll that back and say it could have been like the first season of Prison Break, which is not fucking Heat, but at least that was a good fucking first season. Like it got shitty after that, but like they could have done some cool things with that was held together by a lot of the uniqueness of the gameplay and not because of the delivery of the lines or anything. Whereas like this one is almost kind of an inverse of that in that so much of this is driven by the performances that even when you get to some of like we talked about, like the moments where you're like, I'm fucking cleaning a house right now. This is literally like house made the game, yet it's still interesting because the way it's being delivered and acted, and even like I said, some of the parts. Some of the shit that you could, if you wanted to nitpick, at least to this point, like some of the, the over the top and on the nose and that kind of stuff, even those things are largely shadowed by the delivery of what is the way things are being told to you. So even if you're like, yeah, I get it, like, yes, you kind of went really heavy to make that point, but the person that's they're acting the shit out of this, and it looks great, and then you add into that like some cool, the gameplay being interesting ways to kind of keep you engaged even in super mundane shit. It all comes together to be, at worst, an interesting game to play. At best, like a really, really good story that is coming through, or a very well done story in terms of like the acting that also has some super cool, tense, like legit, like on the edge of your seat moments where like you get, not like, oh, a jump scare, right? Because everyone always thinks tension has to be like, oh shit, is a monster going to jump out? This is more just like, am I going to fuck up this like person's life right now? And that's actually like legit real tension and not just like horror movie tension, which is like, oh no, I hope Jason's not right behind me when I turn around. Like, yeah, that's cool and scary, but it's not sustainable for a fucking like 25-hour game or however long this thing is. Whereas like this is much more about like, I just really don't want shit to go poorly for like Kara and this kid. So I'm more tense because I'm treating this as like their life is in my hands right now, and I don't want to fuck this up.
Yep.
And that's hard to do in a game. So
and they got you, they got you invested, and the acting
Right.
goes a long way towards that, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, this was a good one, man. I definitely enjoyed that mission. And if they do some more shit like that, if they trend in that direction of there being more missions like these kind of more, adventure gamey type, like here's a mini sandbox for a minute, now you just figure out how you want to get out, you have to just stay at a place for the night, and now here's a bunch of different ways you can pull it off. That is very intriguing to me, so we'll see.
They're gonna keep mixing it up, and yeah, like the next chapter is gonna be it's called From the Dead, and it's gonna involve Marcus,
right?
And it's different,
right?
It's I like this chapter in remembering it, and but it is different, and they're just gonna keep like switching it up, and yeah, I look forward to continue seeing you playing these, and kind of like how it ends up for you and everything, and seeing what you may or may not do different from me, and then like and then like seeing how the story branches, because really like it's like I'm looking forward, like so right now as I'm talking to you, I'm like going through my own, like just remembering the chapters, like scrolling through some of the chapters, and I'm like, oh I can't wait till he plays this one. Oh wait, but then there's this one, and then there's this one, and what I mean, like I just kind of want to see what you do in these, and like so there's I'm looking forward to it. I'm really glad that we're doing this.
Yeah, this is a good one. I'm glad you came up with this idea to do this one, because it is I think it's for us. It's a very unique way to play through a game because it literally is like it subverts the entire idea of doing like a two-person playthrough, because typically you would think that would be we're playing a multiplayer game and we're like just talking over as we play, and like we're just doing, we're like, did you see that kill, or like or obviously like a Way Out was a perfect one for that because it is a only two-player game, whatever. So to take a game like this where you're like, this is exclusively a single-player game, and then the other person is just there to kind of experience your playthrough and then talk to you about it after the fact, it's a very unique multiplayer experience, right? Because we get a chance to just, so why'd you do this and why'd you do that, and what were you thinking at this point, and so I can give you my live reactions to things, and then you can then say, okay, so you already said this, but what did you think about that, right? And having the hindsight of, or the foresight of having played the entire game, so things that are coming down, you can kind of direct my questions towards things that that may or may not be important later on. So I think it's just a cool idea, and it's a very interesting way to try it out. And I hope people at home are able to get into it and feel like you're just kind of hanging out with your friends and playing a game, and then being like, oh shit, what did you think about that? That was fucking crazy, right? Like that is the epitome of old school like gaming, was sitting around with your friends, because not every game was a multiplayer game. Half the time I remember playing games was like my friends coming over and being like, let's just try to beat Resident Evil, man. We're just going to hand the controller off and you play this part, I'll play this part, and then we're going to talk like that was fucked up when the dog jumped through the door. I definitely jumped out of my seat. And so we're basically just doing that now, but like over the internet, and I think it's cool and hopefully unique, and I'm hoping people are having a good time checking it out.
Yeah. Again, y'all, if you enjoyed like the discussions that we've had around this, we have a lot of discussions about everything, like really pretty much everything. We use the excuse of like it has to relate to entertainment in some way, but that really just about includes everything. So check out our podcast. Yeah. I've already posted it in the chat here. It is live from the Man Cave. You can find it on any podcast app, including iTunes. You can check it out directly at our site, www.livemancave.com. We also do have a Discord server, and I will post the invitation to that up. So anything you've heard here or on our podcast, and you're like, I want to get in on that discussion because, you guys said some stupid shit, and I need to let you know how wrong you are. Or, like, yo, I totally agreed. Keep up the good work and shit like that. I'm gonna post that right now.
Yep.
In our chat.
We're in there all the time, so we will definitely respond to anything you say, any ideas you have, or any shit you want to talk to us. That's totally cool. Like, that's what it's all about. It's a safe space to just come in and share your thoughts. So we've actually gotten some great ideas for things to do from people who have gone into the Discord channel and suggested things. So check it out. Definitely, we enjoy it, hanging out and talking to people listening to the show and seeing your feedback and stuff like that. Nice, man.
Got nothing else on my end, man, so ready to sign off if you are.
Yeah, this is a good one. All right, well, on that note, we are... Oh, I guess the one big thing we should probably just throw out there, although by the time you listen to this, it may be... well, no, I mean, it'll be out there by the time you listen to this. In the next couple days, Jess and I are going to be getting together and actually doing our first big kind of like on site in the Man Cave, doing a holiday kind of post-holiday moving into 2019 kind of. Close out to 2018, hype up for 2019, all that kind of shit. We're doing just a big wrap-up episode that we're going to be doing this upcoming weekend in the Man Cave, which we have not actually been able. We've been doing a bunch of remotes as of late, just because of schedules. So we're pretty excited that for the big holiday kind of blowout, we are going to still got a Christmas tree up. So we're going to sit around, drink a bunch of Christmas beers, and hang out and talk about how much we're glad 2018 is over and how many high hopes we have for 2019 being better. And see how many ways it can let us down. So that's going to be up there. You will check out on livemancave.com, or like Jess said, if you go into iTunes or anything like that, you will see that we will have that up. Probably, by the time you're listening to this, it'll be coming up anytime, because that's going to be we're going to be recording that this upcoming weekend. So That's going to be a very special event. We are super excited because this is a big one for this. This is like our Christmas party. You know, you go to work and your company has a Christmas party, and you may or may not love that, or you may think it's horrible, or you may get real drunk and take photocopies of your ass and get in trouble, possibly fired. This is our version of that. So we're just wondering what's going to be the thing that we photocopy our ass and get fired for at our own personal Christmas party. So stay tuned to see how the fucking wheels come off very quickly in that one. But that's pretty much
sounds
it,
like
right?
a challenge.
Yeah, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
All right, Jest. I think I'm ready to go, man. We got actually some work to do to get ready for that episode, so we might as well sign off here and say thank you very much for listening. It's been an awesome time, and check us out in our next episode of Ready Player 2, and check us out live Man Cave. And other than that, have a good night, and definitely go drink some beers. Peace.